Hi, welcome to the next edition of Voices from the Hill. I'm State Senator Michael Rodrigues.
State Representative Alan Sylvia.
And State Representative Paul Schmid.
It's a pleasure for us to be once again on this show to educate and inform you, our constituents from Greater Fall River, on what's happening on Beacon Hill up at the State House. And it's been extremely busy over the course of the last few months with probably the most important bill that we work on every year, the so-called operating budget. And we're just about, and I say just about because there's still some loose ends left, but just about complete with the FY14 operating budget. And especially for Representative Sylvia, this was your first budget as a state representative. What do you think?
I'm still having post-traumatic experience. It's been really interesting. Of course, we're down the hall from you, Senator, and we've had an opportunity to caucus as we prepared for our vote, and I like to, it's important. We had more than 2/3 of the vote, of course, to veto the governor's actions. I'm really pleased at what we were able to do.
Alan, our budget is a good one for Fall River, isn't it?
Absolutely. I know that we have the numbers to put up on the screen, but those numbers are very important because it's really the most the city has received in 5 years. It's the largest amount of local aid, the largest amount of Chapter 70 money, the education resources, and Chapter 90 for our roads and infrastructure. It's the most we received in the past 5 years. So that's a total win for us in Fall River. And in spite of the pundits who make negative comments about a 3-cent increase in gas and a $1 on cigarettes, none of us are happy about increasing any taxes at all. But when you look at the benefits that we're receiving from this budget, and people shouldn't just look at the local aid issues or how it's going to help us here in the city. More than 48% of our city's budget comes from the state of Massachusetts. So that in itself, but as Senator Rodrigues mentioned to me earlier, look at Route 79 construction. Look at the Braga Bridge. Look at what's going to be happening for the next several years.
Which begins this fall, by the way.
Incredible.
Absolutely.
And that DOT, that transportation money is what we're looking at right here. That's an incredible move forward. And the thing that moved me and excited me most about this budget, of course, and I know you all are going to comment on the same thing, is South Coast Rail. This has given us the ability for the first time. We talked about it in so many years. 20 years we talked about a train. Now we have the resource, we have the revenue, the bonding mechanism in place, and the resources to get the permitting and engineering started so that we can actually have the realization of a train here in several years. And I'm excited about that.
Next stage on that will be the transportation bond bill. Isn't that right, Senator?
That is correct. Why don't we, for the listening audience, when we talk about local aid and what Fall River receives, there are really 3 significant pots of money that we vote on in the state legislature for so-called local aid. The first being unrestricted government aid, so-called UGA, as we say, and that money comes down in the form of a direct check to the city of Fall River.
Wow.
To be spent at the discretion of local officials, the mayor and the city council. And you have the numbers
And
there,
what
Representative
were
Schmidt.
we able to do this year?
You tell us. You've got the
Well,
numbers right there.
I'd love to tell you. My heavens, we were able to increase local aid by better than $500,000 for Fall River this year.
And how much is Fall River going to receive this year?
North of $20 million.
North of $20 million of unrestricted government aid to the city of Fall River. The other big pot of money, and certainly the largest pot of money, is for education aid, so-called Chapter 70. And we were able to make significant additional investments in Chapter 70. I know statewide, we spend over $4 billion out of a $34 billion budget. Over $4 billion of that goes directly back to our cities and towns for education aid.
Most important investment we can make.
And Fall River has probably the highest amount of Chapter 78 of any community in the Commonwealth as a percentage of their budget. So what did we receive this year?
This year we received just over $100 million. $146,000.
Imagine
And that's an increase of how much over last year?
$4.5 million.
$4.5 million.
So that's, that's tremendous. Then we also assist our local communities in road transportation projects. And I can remember so-called Chapter 90 monies, and I can remember when that was just a minor amount of what communities would spend on maintaining their own roads and sidewalks and doing repairs. Today, that makes up the lion's share of our local communities. And the city of Fall River is going to get a real good increase this
50%, Senator.
a 50% increase. And what's Fall River to expect this year in Chapter 90?
Close to $3 million, Senator.
Close to $3 million. Now, those are direct local aid programs. Those are the big numbers. Other communities have other big numbers. For instance, in our community of Westport, an important number is so-called pilot, payment in lieu of taxes, because we are the community that has Horseneck Beach State Reservation. Westport received close to $800,000 in payment in lieu of taxes just for hosting Horseneck Beach.
So important to our budget in Westport.
But there are a lot of other
You got that
programs.
increased, by the way, 3 or 4 years ago. I remember that.
Yep.
You got it jumped up from 500,000 to 800,000.
Right, we did, and and that wasn't just for Horseneck Beach, but that was statewide for those communities that host state agencies or departments or facilities. Another thing that's important to know is, besides these direct local aid operating accounts, we support programs that make significant investments here in the city of Fall River. One that I know of is called Expanded Learning Time. And we, as a delegation, secured $14.1 million statewide for Expanded Learning Time. Well, Fall River has the most schools of any in the Commonwealth with ELT programs. There are 3 schools that receive extra money support so they can have longer days and provide better educational services to our constituents. You know, we have the Cuss Middle School, the Sylvia Elementary School, and the Viveris Elementary School, all of which last year received collectively about $2.7 million out of that $14 million to support extended learning time for their programs.
So we're really educationally, and last week I had an opportunity to, and Representative Schmidt hosted the visit. We had the chairman, the House Chair of Education, Peisch, come down. We sat with Meg Mayo Brown and her assistant. What's her name, Paul? I don't remember, but it was an excellent meeting. We were there an hour, and the superintendent was gracious, and she does a fine job.
She does a super job.
Of course, we were there with our concerns around the Innovation Academy and that vote being voted down the night before. So it was a timely visit, and it worked out well. And of course, let's hope that will be revisited again.
We've got to have that innovation school.
Unfortunately, we know that, not unfortunately, but the charter school, and I know you and others are big supporters of charter school, and I know the charter school is interested in coming to Fall River and doing the same. So I just think the concept is an incredible one, and it would give our students in Fall River a boost. And imagine being able to attend high school and be able to get college credit, and to already have kick-started so they don't have to borrow money to go to college. That's incredible.
And Alan, you and I know that part of the resistance came from teachers in Durfee, and they said, we hate to see kids coming out of Durfee because this would have been located in another location. Right. But you know, the Innovation School is all about giving kids choices. And this would have been a wonderful choice, a choice, as you said, that gives them an opportunity to gain college credits. And they're going to have choices anyway.
Yeah. Let's hope that we can find a way to keep that alive, and the hopes of that happening. I mean, I get excited every time I hear a hope. Every time we were just talking about branding and marketing our community, marketing our area, and these are important things we can do. And I want to tell the people what we're doing in marketing Fall River and the surrounding areas, because we have so many positive things here in our community. Everyone is eager to talk about negative when we have lots of positiveness. We have a waterfront that's going to be vastly improved as this 79 development process takes place over the next several years. We had the chance the other morning to look at a rendering, which I think they did an incredible job. we could actually see how the road with traffic, how the roadway is going to be dropped, how the boulevard is going to be expanded.
It's a game changer.
It's incredible.
It's a game changer for the city.
I hope eventually people can see that, perhaps on Fall River Media.
We'll be having a public meeting early September, and they will present that to the general public. Because I think throughout the Route 79, I know we're switching from education to another topic, but excuse me, throughout the Route 79 so-called spaghetti ramp project, communication is going to be key, because it's going to be 3 years of major disruption. There's no way we can tear down the main artery east-west and the main artery north-south in the center of the city, tear it down and replace it without major disruption. But as long as people are informed, know what's happening, know where the detours are going to go, know how to get from point A to point B, that's the most that we can ask for. And they are committed. We heard from they've hired a public relations communication specialist to ensure that communication level stays open. But before we leave education, you know, we talk a lot about K through 12 education and the investments that we make as a state.
Oh, I know where you're going now, Senator.
Well, let's talk about higher ed.
Let's talk about
how
it.
important higher ed is. And right here where we sit, right in Bristol Community College, $20 million increase to our community colleges this year. And for the first time, something that I've been working on forever is to establish an equitable funding formula for all of our community colleges.
Which has not been in place to BCC's detriment.
Absolutely. BCC was at the short end of that stick. For years we've been trying to fight it. I have to give a lot of credit to President Jack Sprague. He and the other university presidents got together and were able to negotiate a common sense funding formula. As these new additional dollars come forward, a disproportionate share is coming to Bristol Community College to deal with that equity, and that's very important.
And you know, Bristol Community College does so much. They're truly, you talk about community. Look, of course, their involvement was right there at the pinnacle of the Innovation Academy we were talking about, but they're doing so many things. We obviously wouldn't even be sitting here doing this program, reaching our constituents, if it wasn't for Jack Sprague and Bristol Community College. And you know, I look around, and Steve Camara, who's done an incredible job here. Our set is the most professional. This is like being on Channel 10 or Channel 12. To be able to deliver the quality of programming that happens through this institution and the folks here at Fall River Media is incredible. What a mechanism to reach our people and to get this information, this basic information, basic to us, but the people out there didn't know these numbers. They didn't know that Fall River is getting more than they've had in the past 5 years with education, local aid, and Chapter 90 for our streets and our infrastructure. That's an incredible resource that we have, and we have a BCC to thank for that.
Yep. And if I can just hop in on the subject of BCC, amongst all 16 community colleges in Massachusetts, BCC has always ranked at the top insofar as quality, all the metrics that you use. But until this year, its funding from the state per pupil has been down at the bottom for historic reasons. And this budget changes the game for BCC.
And you know, and I know, Senator, we had visited down with Secretary Bielecki. He's the Secretary of Economic Development in the state of Massachusetts. We were down at Workforce Development down at BCC, and you know, Paul, the work that they're doing down there at the Workforce Development in preparing people. And another resource that people are not aware of, you know, the CNA program, and you know, obviously we have a higher than average unemployment rate in our community. But BCC, again, through the Workforce Development Project, is an incredible resource for people to get on the way and get a new career.
BCC is absolutely the shining example of what community colleges can be in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Not every community college is like Bristol Community College, all of the 16. And as you said, in the past month, we had Secretary Bielecki, Secretary of Economic Development. Governor Patrick was there last week, and I got notice today that Secretary Sullivan, Secretary of Environmental Affairs, will be visiting the Green Center at BCC in the next few weeks. So, but before we get off education and higher ed, we've got to talk about my alma mater, the University of Massachusetts at Dartmouth, or when I graduated,
Take it away, Senator.
Southeastern Massachusetts University. You know, we have, unfortunately, over the past 5 or 6 years, with the fiscal realities that we were in, made some very hard decisions across the board. And one of the hard decisions we've had to make was reduce funding for our University of Massachusetts system. We've reversed that trend this year, and we were able to increase funding significantly for UMass next year. UMass is going to be the only state university in the country that has already pledged not to raise tuition or fees on its students for next school year, and I think that's great news.
You mean this coming year as well as the next year?
As this coming year, beginning in September, that school year, there will be no increase in tuition and fees at the University of Massachusetts.
That's incredible. And you know, the University of Massachusetts is doing a number of things. We visited the ATMC Center. We had a little tour of that last week, I don't know, Thursday or Friday. I lose track of days.
These days just...
But the partnership with business and the University of Massachusetts, where a number of graduate students are working there, doing innovative things. When I see those things happening with underwater, it looks like a torpedo, but it collects data and samples from the bottom and water sampling. They're using of course, the South Watupper as a location to run that equipment. I'm amazed by it.
Got to keep the water level.
But what UMass is doing also with Cape Wind, which is an incredible project, going to be the largest wind farm in the country, and what they're doing with the biopark. You know, I know, Senator, you were a big supporter of the biopark when others wanted to put a casino there, and credit to you for that, because the biopark means jobs, it means additional taxes to our community, and if we can get that rail down here with the biopark, it's a win-win for us.
If I could just mention the biopark, the so-called biomanufacturing center, is set to be complete in the next literally weeks. In the next few weeks, they're completing the interior fit out and finish now. We should have a ribbon cutting there before the end of this calendar year. It's going to take a little while for the Department of Health to bless everything and to certify everything, but within the next few months, that is going to begin generating the type of economic development activity that the ATMC did at the former Kerr Mill site. That is the public investment that's going to serve as the magnet for private investment. It worked on the Kerr Mill site. Of course, we have Meditech with 500 jobs right on that site that would not be there were it not for the ATMC. We have that to the west and to the east. I call it the old Corbett Hat Mill, the original home of the Narrow Center for the Arts. Why the Narrow Center for the Arts? It's called the Narrow Center for the Arts. At that facility, that's completely remodeled and investments made. The same thing's going to happen up at the so-called biopark. But besides education, another important priority I know for all of us, because we talk about it all the time, is how we can help with public safety. And Alan, you're on the Committee on Public Safety. Why don't you say something? We had a listening tour here last week that you were instrumental in bringing to Fall River.
As a member of the Public Safety Committee, the Joint Committee on Public Safety, I had asked Chairman Hank Norton to include Fall River in part of the listening tour program. We've, of course, been now through several communities in the Commonwealth. Next week, we're going to be visiting Springfield to do a hearing. We had a hearing out in Worcester. We had over 400 people there. Obviously, the gun legislation is a firearms legislation, and some of those bills are up, and we came to Fall River to listen to some residents, and the Fall River Police Department hosted the chairman and I, and we were visited by many of our area delegation, and thank you all for being there. But the firearms issue is a very important and passionate issue. One that I know that you are all concerned about, but you know, we had that knee-jerk hysteria when that situation happened in Connecticut, Sandy Hook, Connecticut, with disaster. One person, an act of evil, but when we look at some of the legislation that to even you know, have liability insurance for lawful gun owners, how wrong that is.
Well, we have to remember that we already have the toughest gun
Right, we
laws
have
in the
Everything the federal
nation,
government
so.
wants to do with eliminating the assault weapon, we have done
We've
that.
done it.
Reducing the clip, how many rounds in the clip,
Yep.
we've done that.
Yep.
So we're far ahead of the curve in Massachusetts, thankfully so.
Yeah. But maybe we can do something in the area of mental health.
Mental health is the big issue, but keep in mind that the highest number of firearms assaults, firearms crimes, are by individuals who obtained a firearm illegally by a break-in. Not even a mental health issue. And I tell people always, 22 years on the Fall River Police Department, 19 of those years in major crimes, over 200 gun arrests. Never once did I charge someone with a firearms violation that was a lawful gun owner. It was always someone who obtained a firearm unlawfully or had a acute mental health issue that had gone untreated.
Well,
I
you know
understand.
these issues.
I understand that forum was taped by David Weed and Partners for a Healthier Community here in Fall River,
It's
and I
up
hope
on YouTube.
It's up on YouTube. The quality of the discussion and the debate at that hearing was incredible. Listening to our DA Sam Sutter, listening to our police chief, who is incredibly. Let me tell you,
What a resource. We are so fortunate to have
we
him
have
in
one of the
Fall
most respected police chiefs, not just from major cities, but any police chief anywhere in the Commonwealth here, in Chief Dan Racine. But to listen to the quality of the discussion, talking about, which we all agree on, is how do we eliminate, remove, reduce the amount of illegal guns on the street. We've done everything we could with making gun licensing as strict as possible. We have the strictest gun licensing laws anywhere in the country. But it's not the licensed, legal, law-abiding gun owner that's committing these atrocities. It's the unlicensed criminal, thug, hood, punk, druggie, whatever you want to call them, that's out there causing these problems. And how do we address that? Mental health, we know. You know, I'm so proud of where we've come during my tenure in the legislature relative to mental health. There was such a stigma attached to mental illness. I can remember when and Representative Sullivan was very instrumental in passing the mental health parity bill.
Always the leader. David Sullivan, always the leader.
The mental health parity bill. We're well beyond that now here in Massachusetts. But it's always tricky with HIPAA, privacy legislation and regulations. It's tricky, but I think we can get there, and I think we can do something about it
We heard some innovative ideas come out of that hearing, and I urge people to please go on YouTube and take a look at that listening tour last week. There's some good information. We looked at mandated reporting. I've never even heard that before, and that came right out of here, out of Florida. So,
Yeah.
But we want to protect the Second Amendment and to protect those rights that people should be protected. And we certainly don't want to do anything to
Right.
go after or hurt lawful citizens who feel they want to own a firearm.
Before we leave the subject of the budget,
Yes.
I just wanted to mention two things. One is, of course, the governor wanted to veto our budget because he felt we weren't raising taxes high enough. We were able to override that veto. We felt his ideas were unsupportable. So that was a successful veto. And the second issue is the governor also wanted to veto our notion of having photo IDs on EBT cards. He wanted to put that off to a study. We said, no. That is something that we want to go forward on. It's part of an omnibus EBT reform that we've been working on. It's a very important issue, so we overrode him on that.
And I'm particularly proud of that override because you start hearing a few talking heads come out, sometimes across the aisle, that made it appear that we wanted to continue and see fraud take place. The opposite. We spent so much time looking at the EBT issue, not only with putting photographs on cards, but we've looked at the software issue and getting them up to speed, and working together with our federal and Department of Revenue partners to make sure that people who are getting the services should be getting those services. And we want to help people. There are so many people that need help in our Commonwealth, we want to make sure they get the help.
This is not a Republican issue. This
No.
is not a Democratic issue. This is an issue that we come together on.
Yep.
We've got to cut out fraud and waste, and we will.
Yes.
We'll cut
I,
that.
I think it was the perfect storm to have happened to let this, and the other thing people should know is we in Massachusetts, there are only 4 other states in the nation that have a stabilization fund higher than we do. 4 other states. Yeah. We have almost nearly $1.5 billion in a stabilization fund. Who would have thought? That number came down during the recession. We had
we drew it down.
You're right. We had some.
Well, it's a rainy day fund, and it was raining pretty hard.
It was
raining. But we've been able to bring that, been able to bring that money back without increasing taxes more than have been, and states like Alaska have a higher rainy day fund than us. I think it's incredible that when we talk about above the curb, we're above the curb, not only with firearms legislation, but to have a stabilization fund like that in the Commonwealth, it makes me feel good.
Well, with what's going on in Washington where nothing gets done, it's all the more important to have effective state government. And I'm very proud to be part of Massachusetts state government, as I know you are, Rep. Sylvia and Senator Rogers.
Well, I'm very proud to be part of this local delegation, and soon we will have to squeeze over for a 4th member of the delegation.
I don't know if I'm eager to do any squeezing.
Yeah.
I know we're going to have a new person.
We're going to have a new...
he or she, we're not sure who that'll be, but I'm excited about that too, because we have been meeting regularly, and I love the fact that I can sit down with these gentlemen and ladies. Pat Haddad, Speaker Pro Tem Pat Haddad joins us, and to sit down together to share information, sometimes things that to me are sensitive, that and for us to do it together and to be able to get that message to people, and it's a good thing. And I love working with you gentlemen because you both have more experience than I, and so I'm always looking up to you in a mentoring way.
You have a wonderful youthful vigor.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
By the way, before we close, August 10 and 11, we'll be voting next week to have our annual sales tax holiday.
Sales tax holiday that's coming down the pike next week for the August 10th and 11th. We do that every year.
That's a nice thing.
Yep, it's a nice thing. I have different opinions, but I'll be voting for it. But
it gives a chance for people to go and buy some large ticket items and not paying the tax for it.
A couple of other things on my calendar. On Tuesday, we'll be meeting with Speaker Haddad to make sure that we don't let them close the RMV
They're trying to close the
facility here
registry
in
of
Fall
motor
River.
vehicles. Senator's already told me, don't worry about it. We're going to take care of that, but we're going to be working on it to make sure they don't try to do such a crazy thing.
Well, we have to look at how we deliver services, public services. The RMV is one issue. I was at a meeting last week, as was Representative Schmidt, about the proposed closing of the Flint Post Office station. When I was first elected in 1996, I would get a stack of mail every day that high. Today, we're lucky to get a half a dozen pieces of mail. Everything's done electronically. The postal service has just changed. So there's a lot to talk about. We're getting the wrap-up. We're getting the wrap-up sign. Once again, I'm
I think we should
Senator
do
Michael
2 shows.
Rodrigues.
We have to do 2 shows a month because there's a lot of things seriously that we need to tell our
Absolutely.
constituents.
I thank everyone for tuning in, and know that I know our phone numbers have been flashing up on the screen. Don't be afraid to call any one of us.
Don't hesitate.
At
It's what
any
we
time.
get paid to do.
At any time, and we will respond and we will service you the best we can.
Yep.
Thank you all for tuning in.